Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome to Sew with Mediva. And if you're a returning subscriber or a returning viewer, thank you for sticking to my channel. So in today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to make this stylish Milkmaid long pencil dress, and I achieved this style using 3.5 yards of African print fabric. So if this is something you are interested in, make sure to keep watching and make sure you watch till the end so that you don't miss out on any detail. So this is what the back of the dress looks like. It has a slit. So guys, if you find this video useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, share this video to your loved ones, and also put on your notification bell so that when I post new videos you'll be notified. So I made use of 3.5 yards of this African print fabric. You're also going to need your lining, and you need your elastic band. You can make use of a 1/2 inch elastic band. You need your chalk, your scissors, and your ruler. So this dress is in two parts: the upper one, which is the off shoulder to your half length, while the lower part is from the half length down to the full length of the dress. So we're going to start with the upper part. So we're going to start with the back panel for the upper part, and I have my fabric cut out. It is in a fold of 2. So towards the folded angle, I have my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. So towards the folded part, I have the zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. So you can go ahead to fold in the zipper allowance this way while you take the measurement so that you don't get confused. And the wideness of the fabric I have after the zipper allowance is my round bust measurements divided by 4, which is 10.5 inches, and 2 extra inches for the seam allowance. So I'll just go ahead to open up the zipper allowance, and the first thing to do is to draw out a starting line at the upper part of your fabric. And then, since this dress is in the form of an off shoulder, I'm going to place my tape rule 5 inches or 6 inches above that starting line. This is going to give that off shoulder effect. For mine, I made use of 6 inches above the starting line. So my shoulder to my half length is 16 inches. So I'm going to place my tape rule 6 inches above the starting line to mark the vertical measurement. So I'm going to mark 16.5 inches here because of the joining allowance, and then the next measurement I'm going to mark is from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 11 inches. I'll mark it that way. So like I said earlier, you can decide to fold in the zipper allowance to avoid any confusion. So the next measurement I'm going to place is the armhole measurement. So still placing my tape rule 6 inches above the starting line, I'm going to mark my round armhole measurement divided by 2, which is 8 inches. I'll add extra 1/2 inch for ease. So I marked 8.5 inches there. After that, the next thing is to place the dart. So to get the dart line, I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2, which is 4 inches. And I'll mark that 4 inches on the half length line and also mark it on the bust line. Then connect the 2 points together this way. So I'll take 0.5 inches, 1/2 inch on both sides of the line and connect it this way. So go ahead to work with your own measurements following this method. The next thing is to place the round body measurements, and on the bust line I'll place my round bust measurements divided by 4 and add 1 inch for seam allowance. And on this half length line, I'm going to place my round waist measurements divided by 4, which is 8.5 inches. I'll add 1 inch for that and 1 inch for seam allowance and go ahead to mark it there. So connect the 2 points together this way. And then whatever you have on the bust line, place it on the armhole line and then connect it together. So after that, the next thing is to mark the off shoulder measurement. So divide your shoulder to shoulder measurement by 2. Mine is 8 inches, and then subtract 2 inches from it. So I'm going to be working with 6 inches. So whatever you got after dividing your shoulder to shoulder measurements by 2, subtract 2 inches from it again, and then go ahead to connect it all the way to the armhole line, forming a curve this way. So let's go ahead to cut it out. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch to this armhole point to attach the sleeve, and then I'll cut out the excess I have at the base. So another thing I'm going to do is to remove 1/2 inch from this zipper allowance and just connect it all the way up. This is going to avoid any zipper bulging. And then I'll come up again from the center back by 1 inch and just slant it into the side this way. This is also to avoid zipper bulging so that your dress sits very well at the back. So after cutting out, this is what we have. So when you open it up, it is going to look just like this. So I'll go ahead now to use this to cut out the lining outer lining for each piece. And before I separate it, I'm just going to notch the dart on both fabrics. Go ahead to make small cuts on the dart areas this way. So I'll set them aside now while we work on the front panels. So moving to the front, we're going to be drafting on the pattern paper so that we don't waste the fabric. So the wideness of this paper is my round bust measurements divided by 4 and 2 extra inches for seam allowance. So I'll go ahead to draw out a starting line at the upper part just like we did with the back. And then I'll place my tape rule 6 inches above the starting line to create the off shoulder effect. So I'll mark from my shoulder to my half length, which is 16 inches plus half an inch for joining, and then my shoulder to the armhole measurement is 8.5 inches just like I used at the back, and then to my nipple point is 11 inches, and then from my shoulder to my under bust is 13.5 inches, but I'm going to use 14 inches because you don't want it too tight at that area. You don't want to use your exact under bust measurement. So after that, I'm going to just extend the lines. So we're going to have a lot of lines, so you have to label each line as you are marking so that you don't get confused. So go ahead to extend all your lines this way and then proceed to label them. So this is me just labeling the lines. This is the armhole line, this is the bust point, the under bust, and the half length. So I'll go ahead to cut out the excess I have to avoid any confusion. So the next thing we're going to do is to place the round body measurement, and on the bust line I'll place the round bust measurements divided by 4 and add 1 inch for seam allowance. And on the half length line I'll place the round waist measurements divided by 4, add 1 inch for seam allowance, and then connect the points together this way. So on this armhole line, I'm going to place the bust measurements there as well. So whatever you have on the bust line, go ahead to place it on the armhole line. This is exactly how we did the back panel, and then connect the points together. So this front part is not going to be having any dart since it's in form of a milkmaid dress. So I'll come over to this off shoulder line and place the shoulder measurements divided by 2, which is 8 inches from me minus 2 inches. So I have 6 inches there. Go ahead to place your own measurements and use your curved ruler to connect the line all the way this way. So right now I'm going to split this pattern into 2. So from this under bust line I'm going to cut it out. So this upper one is going to create that milkmaid effect, while the lower one is going to be like a band. So I'll go ahead now to just cut out the sides first. I'll cut out the sides and then I'll fold it in from this under bust area and just cut it out. So I'm going to show you guys how to cut out the upper part on the fabric. So I've got ahead to cut out the fabric we'll be using to create the gathers in front, and it's in a fold of 2. So what I'm going to do now is to place this pattern towards the open angle of the fabric, and then I'll make sure I have some excess at the upper part because of the elastic casing. So because I'm using a 1 inch elastic band, I'm going to leave 3 inches extra at the upper part. If you're using a ½ inch elastic, you can just do 2 inches. So I'll use my pin to secure the pattern to the fabric this way. And then after securing, I have about 10.5 inches towards the center front, which is okay to create the gathers. That's going to be enough to create the gathers in front. So I'll use my chalk to just trace out the pattern this way and then proceed to cut it out. So I added ½ an inch to the base for joining to the band. I hope you guys understand. And then I added ½ an inch to the armhole area as well. So I'll go ahead to notch the point where I want the elastic casing to stop. So this is going to guide you when you are folding in. After that, I'll proceed to remove the pattern from the fabric and open it up for you guys to see. So you can see how wide it looks, but we're still going to gather it to create the milkmaid effect. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys now is how to cut the band. So I'll fold this fabric into 2 and then place the center of the band towards the closed area this way, and then use my pin to hold it down. I'll make sure I have ½ an inch at the upper part to serve as the joining allowance, and then proceed to cut it out. So after cutting out, this is what we have. I'll separate it now from the pattern. So this is what it looks like after cutting out. So this is the band when you open it up. So we're going to gather this upper part to fit into the length of the band. I'll show you guys how to do that soon. So I'll cut out lining for the band as well. The next thing I want to do now is to turn over with the lining, and I'm starting with the back panels. I'm gonna ahead to cut out the lining, and I'm going to place them right sides facing each other this way. I'll go ahead to use half an inch to join the upper part. I'll close up the zipper allowance with less than half of an inch, like a quarter, and then I'll close up the sides also with a quarter of an inch. When I'm done, I'll turn it over to the right side, iron it out, and then take in the darts on the wrong side. So those part of the darts that you notched, you're going to just sew it in this way on the wrong side after turning over. So after that, I'll move over to the front. So this is the upper part of the front. We won't be needing lining for the upper part of the front, but for the band, I'm using the same fabric as the lining. So I'll pick up one of the fabric now and then get the midpoint. I'll get the midpoint of this upper fabric, and then I'll get the midpoint of the band. Go ahead to notch it. So after notching, I'm going to place them right sides facing each other this way. I'm going to measure the upper part facing the band this way, and then I'll use my pin to hold to join the notched points together. After joining, I'll go ahead to gather this fabric into the band this way. So while I'm joining it, I'll continue to gather it until it fits into the waistband this way. You can use your pins to hold it down first and then stitch it down. So when I'm done again, starting from that midpoint, I'll gather the remaining part into it this way till I get to the edge of the band. So when I'm done doing that, I'll show you guys how to turn over. So after turning over with the lining, I've ironed it out, and this is what it looks like. So I also took in the darts like I explained earlier on the wrong side, and I've also gone ahead to gather the front panel to the band, and this is what it looks like. You can see that we've gathered this to fit the length of the band already. So we're going to use elastic band for the upper part. The next thing to do is to turn this over with the lining. So I'm going to fold in the gathered parts this way, and then take the right side of my lining to face the wrong side this way. So I'll go ahead to stitch it down on it all the way down using half of an inch. So when I'm done doing that, I'll turn it over and show you guys. So after I stitched down the lining and turned over, this is what it looks like on the wrong side. You can see how neat it looks. You can also close up the side before you turn over, or just stitch it down after turning over. So we are done with the upper part of this dress. Not completely done, but for now I'll just set it aside while we work on the lower part of the dress. So we're moving over to the lower part of this dress now. So the full length of this dress is 59 inches, and we already worked with 16 inches for the upper part. So we're going to be left with 43 inches for the lower part. Go ahead to work with your own measurements, but I have here 45 inches, which is the full length of the Ankara fabric. So I'm going to just mark that 43 inches where I want the dress to stop exactly. So we'll be cutting out both the front and the back panels together, and I have both fabrics in a fold of 2. So the back panel is 2.5 inches bigger than the front because of the butt allocation and zipper allowance. So to get the wideness of fabric to fold, go ahead to divide your round hip measurement by 4 and then add 2 extra inches to it for the same allowance. So after doing that, the next thing is to take the vertical measurement. So the upper part is going to serve as the waistline. So the first measurement you're going to need is from your high waist to your hip line, and mine is 10.5 inches. And the next measurement is going to be from your high waist to your knee line, which is 24 inches for me. Go ahead to mark your own appropriate vertical measurement. The next thing is to place the round body measurement, and I'll be doing that on the front panel alone. So on the waistline, I'll mark my round waist measurement divided by 4, which is 8.5 inches. I'll add 1 inch for that and 1 inch for seam allowance to make 10.5 inches. Go ahead to mark your own. And on the hip line, I'll mark my round hip measurements divided by 4 and add 1 inch for seam allowance, making 12.5 inches. So whatever I have on this hip line, I'm going to subtract 2 inches from it and just mark it on the knee line, which is 10.5 inches. So take out 2 inches so that you can get that tapered look on the knee area. So after doing all of that, go ahead to connect the points together. So I'll connect the waist to the hip, and then I'll connect from the hip all the way to the knee line this way. So from that knee line, I'll just connect it all the way down. I'll just measure what I have there and place it on the full length of the skirt, and then connect it all the way down, forming a straight line. So after that, let's go ahead to cut it out before we proceed to the next thing. So before we cut it out, we're going to take the butt allocation. So come over to the hip line and come out by 1 inch. And then from that 1 inch, go ahead to connect it all the way to the waistline this way, forming a slant. And then from that hip line again, you come down by 8 inches and then connect it all the way to meet that point this way. So this is going to serve as the butt allocation. A bigger size can use 1.5 inches. So after that, I'll proceed now to take the zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. So following that shape, just go ahead to mark your zipper allowance this way. Connect the points together. So keep marking till you get to the base of your skirt, and then connect the points together all the way up this way. So after connecting, the last and final thing is to take the dart. So from the center front, I'm going to take 4 inches, which is my nipple to nipple measurement, divided by 2, and then I'll come down by 6 inches. So from that point, I'll take half of an inch on both sides of the line and then connect it in this way. So I'll notch it on both the front and the back panels, so that when I'm taking it in, I will know where the dart is. Then after that, we can go ahead now to cut it out. So I'll proceed to open up the center back. So follow the shape of what you've marked already. So after cutting out, I'll go ahead to notch the point where I want the fold to stop. So I'll notch it on all 4, and then I'll open it up. So when you open up the front, this is what it looks like. This is what we have, and we have 2 pieces for the back. So for the back panel, make sure you mark which side is going to be for the sides and which part is going to be for the zipper, because it's going to appear confusing when you open it up. So I'll use this now to cut out lining, and then I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So I've used the fabric to cut out the lining, and this is what we have. So for the length of the lining, I made sure it stopped at that point where I notched, because I'll be using the main fabric to turn it over. So let me go ahead to separate them and show you guys how to turn it over. So I'm going to start with the front panel, and I'm going to place the lining on the fabric, making sure the right sides are facing each other. So I'll pull the lining down to the base of my fabric this way and go ahead to stitch it together using half of an inch. When I'm done stitching, I'll pull it up this way and then iron it out so that it lays down flat. I'll pull it up to the point I notched and then go ahead to close up the sides using less than half of an inch. I'll do the same thing for the other side, fold it up to the notched point and then stitch it down. So when I'm done, I'll flip it over to the right side, I'll iron it out and take in the dart on the wrong side. I'll repeat the same process for the back and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after turning over with the lining, this is what it looks like. This is what the wrong side looks like now. You can see how neat it looks. So I also took in the dart like I explained on the wrong side and I ironed it out. So I did the same thing for the back panels and this is what we have. This is what the lower part looks like. So after doing all of that, the next thing now is to join the upper and the lower parts together. So I'm going to start with the front part and I'll place the front panels right sides facing each other this way. I'll merge the waistline and go ahead to join it together using the half an inch that I added. And for the back, I'll also do the same thing. I'll place them right sides facing each other this way. and then go ahead to join it together. So when I'm done doing, so after joining the upper and lower parts together, this is what it looks like. This is the front panel. So the next thing I want to do is to join the front and the back panels together. So I'm going to place them on each other, right sides facing each other this way. So at this point, you're going to need your pin to hold down the fabrics together so that you can align all the points together. You need to align the base together so that one does not come out longer than the other. So use your pins to hold it down before you stitch. It is very important. So you also align the waistline area and the armhole area, and then proceed to use your seam allowance to join it together. So I'll do the same thing for this other side. I'll merge the base. I'll use my pins to hold it down, merge the waistline area and the armhole area together before I stitch it. So after doing that, I'm also going to close the back of the dress. But the first thing you have to do is to determine where you want your slits to stop. So I'm going to come from the base. I'm going to come up by 23 inches. That is how wide I want my slits to be. So I'm going to stop stitching at that point, and then you're going to determine where you want your zipper to also stop. So I'm going to come down by 18 inches from the upper part. Remember, we already took out 6 inches for the off shoulder. Then I'll use my 1.5 inches zipper allowance to close up that point I marked. So after doing all of that, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after joining the sides together, this is what it looks like. You can see how beautiful it looks now. And also for the back, I left the zipper part open, as you can see, and this lower part is the slit opening, so you can see the butt allocation effect at the back. So right now, the next thing I want to work on is the sleeve. So let's go ahead to cut it out. So to cut out the sleeve, I have my fabric in a fold of 2 already. The dimension of the fabric is 14 inches by 14 inches, 14 inches wide on a fold and 14 inches long. So I'm going to open up the front panel. Remember, we're going to have elastic at the upper part, and just trace out the armhole towards the opened angle and then cut it out this way. So I've cut out both sleeves. I'll go ahead to close it up using 1-inch seam allowance. So when I'm done, I'll flip it over to the right side and show you. So after I turned over to the right side, this is what it looks like. And I also folded in 1 inch at the base for the elastic casing. We're going to need elastic at the base. So the next thing to do is to attach it to the dress. So I'm going to open up the armhole of the dress this way and then match the sleeve to it. Match the point you join the sleeve to the side joining of your dress and go ahead to stitch it down. So at the back, you're going to have some excess there, so just leave it that way. We're still going to fold it in for the elastic casing. So for the other side, I'll do the same thing. I'll measure the side joining to the sleeve this way and stitch it all the way up. So for this back, I'll just leave 1/2 inch at this point. So when I insert the elastic, I'll close it up. So after inserting the sleeve, this is what it looks like. So for the back, you can see the 1/2 inch that I left. So when I insert the elastic, I will close it up. So the next thing you want to do is to fold in the elastic casing at the upper part. So I added 3 inches for mine, so because of the size of elastic band that I'm working with, so I'm going to fold in that 3 inches. I'll fold in twice and then stitch it all the way around it. When I'm done with that, I'll show you guys. So after I folded in the elastic casing, this is what it looks like. The next thing is to pass in the elastic band. So for mine, I have about 22 inches long elastic band. So you can use between 20 inches, 22 inches, or maybe 23 inches, just depending on the size of the person you are working with. So I'm going to use my pin and pass it in on one edge of the elastic band this way, and then I'll pass it in through the back armhole. This is why we did not stitch it together yet. So I'll keep passing it in to the elastic casing this way. So I have passed out the elastic to the other opening, and then I'll go ahead to stitch it down. After stitching down, I'll close up the sleeve part this way. So I'll stitch down the elastic there and just close up the sleeve. So when I'm done with that, I'll also insert the elastic band for the base. So to get the length of elastic to cut out, measure around your arm and then subtract 3 inches from it, and then use the same method to pass in the elastic band. So after inserting the elastic band, this is what it looks like, and this is what the back looks like. So the next thing we want to do is to insert the zipper. So I'll go ahead now to fold in my 1.5 inches zipper allowance, and then I'll open up the zipper this way. So the zipper that's meant for this side, I'm going to flip it, making sure the right side are facing each other. I'll fold in the upper part and then stitch it into the zipper allowance this way. You can go ahead to mark out your zipper allowance and draw a straight line so that it will guide you on where to stitch down the zipper. So I'll repeat the same thing for this other side and stitch it into the zipper allowance. So when I'm done doing that, I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So after inserting the zipper, this is what it looks like at the back. You can see how neat it looks. So I'm going to use my hemming gum to finish up the slit. Like, I'm going to open it up on the wrong side, iron it out, and then I'll place my hemming gum under the fabric this way, and then go ahead to use my iron to seal it up. I'll do the same thing for the other side as well. So the last and final thing we want to do is to insert the straps. So the length of the strap is 13 inches. So remember, I took out 6 inches for the front and for the back to create the off shoulder, so I added 1 extra inch for the joining allowance. So I stitched the fabric down and turned over to the right side. So the wideness is 1.5 inch. So to attach the strap, I'm going to find the place where I joined the sleeve and take 2 inches. From the sleeve joining, I'll take 2 inches. So for this front, you're going to insert the strap just below the elastic. Don't stitch it on the elastic, just come down below the elastic and then use your pin to hold it down. And for the back, I'll also come in by 2 inches from the sleeve joining and use my pin to hold it down. So I'll go ahead to stitch the straps this way so that it appears this way. So stitch the front just below the elastic casing and then stitch the back. So I'll insert the other one and then I'll show you guys the finished product of this dress. So after I used the hemming gum to seal the fabric at the slit opening, this is what it looks like. You can see how neat it looks. So I'll go ahead to flip this now to the right side. So this is what it looks like on the right side. See how neat it looks. And for the straps, I have also gone ahead to insert it just like I explained. I stitched down just below the elastic casing so that it doesn't interfere with it. So this is where I'll be ending this video for today, guys. I hope you found it useful and I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe to